What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Arias in the Nation, and I have a awesome guest today on the channel, Tauri from Tauri Reacts. Hello, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing really well. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be here with us today.
Thank you
Um,
for inviting me. It's
oh
we've been talking about it for quite a while now, and it's fun.
yes,
It's good to finally be here. So,
yeah. It's I think what was it before you went to some what was it some con, some you went to some
yeah,
con
it
and
was
it
it was last year, summer last year, and then
mhm,
life just got crazy, and as it
as it
does.
as it always does. People
Yeah,
don't. I feel like a lot of people that live. I would say, actually, never mind. I'm not even going to go that far out. Just the end of the year, just like flies by. Like
yeah,
after like October, after really like Halloween in the States, like it just it's like a warp speed to New Year's.
yeah. And we unfortunately had some bad news within the family, so I had to go back
Oh,
to England. My
oh wow.
my last surviving grandmother passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to
Um,
hear that.
literally like 5 days before Christmas. So yeah, life just
Man,
like put it was like, hey, welcome to 2024. Here's a punch in the gut for you, you know.
yep, yep.
But it wasn't unexpected. She was 94, so she'd
Wow,
lived a long life, but the
wow.
last couple of years weren't really her. She dementia, Parkinson's, that
Got it.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we were all just waiting. And yeah, she finally decided to go around Christmas. I guess that was her because I mean, I live in the USA, my
Mhm.
sister is in Sweden, we've got family all over the country in England as well. So I
Wow.
guess that was her like, I need everybody back for Christmas and the New Year. So here is
Hey,
what I'm gonna do.
that's I mean, at the I mean, I don't know. It's such a like a serious moment, but at least all the family was able to gather,
Yeah. Yeah, it
and
was it was nice to see everybody. It was nice to go home as well at the beginning of the year and
mhm.
to see family and to be with like so my sister of course came over and yeah, it was nice to be like under the circumstances, it was nice to see everybody and
Yeah,
finally she's back with my granddad. That's been quite a long time as well. So, yeah.
that's well, that's a good way to have to have that like that to think of it like that.
Yeah.
That's a great way to do that. And 94 is a very very long life.
Yeah.
That is a job well done, well lived, a life well lived. Um,
Yep.
but so in England,
Mhm.
where I mean whereabouts in England? Like
I'm
that's so
from
cool. I have so many questions.
I'm from the county Lancashire, which is in the
Okay,
northwest, and, a city called Preston, which is maybe about an hour from Manchester.
cool.
Although I really don't sound like it much, my accent is, like, completely messed up because
Yeah,
obviously I've lived in the USA for the past 12 years. When I
12
go
years.
Uh-huh. It'll be 12 years in July, yeah.
Whoa.
So, I when I go home or when I speak to, like, my mum or my dad on, like, Messenger,
Hmm.
video call 'em, my accent starts coming back out, but I'm just one of those people, if I'm around somebody for 24 hours of the day, I'm gonna start picking up on your little nuances and things like that, and I don't do it on purpose, it's very
It's
subconscious. It just
so
happens.
it's it's like when my buddy and I reacted to rugby, and there's this guy from Texas that plays
Mhm.
rugby in Australia, and I'm like, he's from Texas, and like he's on the camera, and I'm like, whoa, where'd you get that accent? That's the
Yep.
farthest thing away from Texas as possible. So that's interesting. But once you're around your family and talking to your family for a little bit, it just comes right back,
Y
right?
Yep, yep. It's like I've never left and it comes back, and then as soon as I get to the US, it's like my brain switches over and it's like, "Okay, now you need to slow down so people can understand what you're saying."
Yeah, I got you. I got you. What has been yes, we'll start very broad because I have a lot of questions. 12 years ago, did you start your channel then, or is it more this is more of a recent your channel Tory
No.
Reacts is more of a recent
Yeah,
development, isn't it?
it's just been I think it was 4 years. I started it just before the pandemic happened.
Okay.
So it was I think I started it in November 2019.
Okay.
But I
Wow.
haven't like the past 2-ish years, I've been like really putting everything into it and trying to grow it and
Yeah.
obviously now I'm doing interviews and I've got
That's
uh relationships with record labels, with bands and things like that. So I'm my next step is to do like in-person interviews, like if when I go
that's
to
super
concerts
cool. Yeah.
and gigs and stuff like that, I figured while I'm there, I may as well try and reach out and get that set up. I did just secure my first one, which is gonna happen on the 18th, which I'm very
Ooh.
nervous about.
Oh, that's so congrats.
Thank
That
you.
is so cool. Um, I've seen some of the times you sat down with not sat down with, but
Mhm,
had different artists on your channel, and that's kind of what I will try to do as well, smattering of. Um,
mhm,
but that's super neat. I'm so excited for you. You actually get to sit down at like the day of
mhm.
an interview. Wow.
Yeah.
Are those questions going to be a little bit different than you would normally have on like your channel because just like to the point, time constrictions?
Probably, yeah, because obviously they're going to be in the middle of a tour and we're
Yeah.
going to want to know how that's going. Just, so I don't like to prepare too early because otherwise I'm too in my head about it.
Yes.
I'm also a very bad procrastinator as well. And I tend to only prepare maybe a couple of nights beforehand. But that's also because I'm an overthinker. And if I prepare too far ahead, then I'm going to be like, having all of this stuff going around in my head, and
Yeah.
I just can't deal with that. So,
And you lose focus on the task.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that's kind of what I've learned that I've become. It's like, you know what?
yeah.
It'll happen the way it happens.
Yep,
Fluidity is how you don't break. Because every time I've
right.
planned something, it always goes to
Mhm,
plan B, to plan
yep.
C, to, you know, so I'm just like, you know, F it, we're just gonna wing it. And it is what it is, you
Yeah,
know.
I'll need to get myself some, like, mini note cards because my
Yeah.
brain's just not gonna be able to remember everything, so I'll jot notes down. Like, I do that with my Zoom interviews, I have, like, the notepad open with, like,
Mhm.
the questions I wanna ask, and then I just let the try and let the conversation flow and slot them in where I can
That's
that feels natural,
yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, it's like you have a list of like 100 questions and you're gonna get to
Yeah.
like maybe 10,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and
Because you
that's
only
fine.
usually get, like, 30 minutes with each artist, because obviously they're doing these time slots back to back, and they're
Yes.
saying the same thing over and over, and sometimes you can tell when they're done and they're
Yeah.
mentally checked out, and, you'd have to realize not to take it personally as well. It's not on
Yeah.
you, it's just that some of them work full-time jobs, then they come home, then they've gotta do, like, 4 or 5 interviews back to back, which most of the time is about their new release. So of course you're gonna get the same questions that you're gonna have to answer and yeah.
Yeah. No, do you ever like throw in those like zingers, like the out of left field questions? Like the ones that are
Sometimes.
just like, what? What? That's not
Yeah,
our normal lineup of questions.
yeah, it depends on how I feel the conversation is going. If I feel like they're very into it and like very talkative, then I'll
Hmm.
try and throw something in. But for the ones that I feel like just want to talk about that album, then obviously we'll just stick to that
Yeah.
and let it go. I think sometimes I feel bad when an interview is only like 10 minutes, but then I realize we're in the generation of people who can't
Yeah.
sit still for more than 2 minutes. So,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's
That's
fine.
yeah, 10 minutes is more than enough. That's a long video,
Yeah.
you know, out here on our on this platform. But
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting. What so I have to ask, what drew you and this is one of those everyday questions that everyone has to ask. What drew you to reacting to the genre that you're reacting to? Like,
Um, well,
I know
I've
you have
always been
multiple on the channel.
yeah, I try and well, mostly like my main focus is obviously metal and rock, but I
Mhm.
will try and fit in different artists because I want to discover them myself, and try and get out of that little box that we always put ourselves into and
Yes.
to discover new musicians. And I I call it polyjamorous.
Polychambers. All right.
Yeah, because I will listen to anything. I don't mind. Same with my like I live stream and people come in and they're like, "Do you only listen to rock and metal?" I'm like, "No, it's open to anything so long as you stick within the guidelines of what Twitch will
Mhm.
let you do."
Yeah.
Um, what made the genre? I was always from maybe 15, 16 onwards, I was always very much into rock. I grew up in that emo era of My Chemical Romance and bands like that.
Okay.
So
It
and
just
then, like, my favorite bands, like, I
Mhm.
have 2 because I just can't pick one, like, Nightwish and Epica are my absolute favorites, and I've always loved classical style music and movie scores and
Yeah.
instrumental things like that. It calms me down, it helps me focus, and that's what I listen to when I edit or when I need to get stuff done. So, when I discovered bands like Nightwish that had that symphonic
Yeah.
element, but also the metal on top, I was like, "What is this magic?" It's like,
It's
oh, it's
it's
crazy, and
it's crazy. It's
yeah.
because I'm right there with you. I just made a video about my top 5. You know how controversial that would be. And I
Yeah.
was like, because my God, a lot of people didn't make the list, but not for those like not for not being talented, but just
Yeah.
because these are the gateway bands.
Yeah.
I had Epica at number 1
Mhm.
and Nightwish at number 2,
Mhm.
and but they're both number all 5 of those bands are number 1. It's
Right.
just
It's hard to I don't know how people just have one favorite band because I
no.
can't do it. Like, even now, bands will come along and I delve into them. I'm like, "This is fantastic." There's so many different genres and so many
Yeah.
talented people out there, even the people who are independent and are up and coming,
Yes.
and you listen to their music and you're like, "How do you have so little subscribers? This is
Yeah.
insane." But so yeah, that's pretty much what got me into doing reactions mostly on like rock and metal is because that well, and I also grew up with that with my dad.
Mhm.
He listens to rock, he like Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin,
Okay.
David Bowie. That's what I we would get woken up at like 7 a.m. in the morning to him blasting whatever vinyl
Cra
he had.
Crazy Train. You're like, "What?
Yeah,
Get
yeah.
up. It's time." What
He's
the
like, "No, he's like, "I've got some DIY I need to get done, so I'm just gonna blast this and it's
fair
Sunday, I
enough.
don't care. Get up."
Fair get
So,
up or get
yeah.
over it. Yeah.
Pretty
Um,
much, so,
so
yeah.
it's so the symphonic metal genre is so unique that I never heard about it because here in the a little bit that you spent in the US, 12 years
Mhm.
isn't a little bit, but that doesn't exist.
No.
That doesn't if you're like coming in and you're just an absorber of music like I am, where I'm
Mhm.
like going through cultivated playlists and sometimes radio on a road trip. Symphonic metal, I didn't even know existed until 7 months ago, and I was like,
Mhm.
"What in the world?" It's like
Yeah.
it just sounds so big. It's like you cannot be drawn to it because of
Yeah.
how massive it sounds.
It's very
And
cinematic,
mhm,
and that's what I love about it because as a child, my mum would say the only thing that would keep me focused and keep me quiet for hours on end was Disney's Fantasia, and that's very classical,
yes.
set to, like, the obviously, the Disney
Mhm.
animation, and then when I discovered rock and metal and I fell in love with that. And then here comes Nightwish.
Yeah.
Obviously, I grew up in England, and at that time, we had the music channels that actually played music, and one of
Yeah.
those was Kerrang, and that's where I discovered Nightwish. It was
Oh,
like
wow.
2004,
Wow,
and
so you discovered them in the
yeah,
beginning.
yeah, that's why
Oh.
they've been around since '96, but
Mhm.
yeah, it was 2004. It was their song Nemo, and
Mhm.
it came on a music channel, and I watched the video and I listened to Tauris' voice over that metal, and I was like, "What is
Like, what
this?"
is that? Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's when I started watching the channel to see if they had any others that sounded like that, and that's when Epica came on with Never Enough, and then I fell in love with Simone's voice. So yeah, I've loved those 2 bands for quite a while now, and
Wow.
I even have Ghost Love Score lyrics tattooed on
Oh,
the top of my
that's
back.
that's
So,
awesome. Yeah, no,
yeah.
I just it's a pretty crazy it really is it's an awesome genre, and
Yeah.
to be honest, it's the not just the music. See, when I listen to the music, I look and read at like the comments in the comment
Mhm,
section, and the fans have such love and all inclusive. Like they just
mhm,
show so much support for their band and for the person that's involved with their band, and it's like that community that I
yeah.
didn't even know existed out there. And I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." Like
Yeah.
you love the music, and then more often than not, you love all the people associated with the music. And I didn't know how tight knit
Mhm,
like the metal scene was, and how crazy the webs that they are all connected somehow, some
mhm.
way. And it's just, what? Because in the comments, you have these like 10-page long comments. Did you know that the drummer from this band was this person's roommate's long lost uncle's brother's cousin? Like,
Yep.
no, I didn't. You know,
Yeah,
it's just like, what? How do you know that? It's,
yep.
it's so it's like it opened up a whole new, it just a whole new dimension to my life. For me, just knowing that that music existed. And
Mhm.
because of that, I fell down all the rabbit holes, you
It's
know?
hard not to.
It's there's so much music out there. It's
Yeah.
absolutely nuts. Because once you crack one thing open, the floodgates open and all these new bands start pouring in and you're like, "Wait a minute. I don't have enough
Mhm.
time in the day and my
No.
devices don't have enough storage," you
And
know?
that's exactly what you gotta remind yourself as a reactor is that you cannot physically get to every single thing somebody comments because you are just one person.
Oh yeah.
So I'll try and obviously I read through the comments and I reply and I see what people are recommending and then I'll try and take like the average of what people are saying and if there's something that keeps catching my eye that they're commenting, then I'll check that out.
Yep.
Um and now I've got these relationships with record labels and they're sending stuff and it's like and then the interviews and it just like all boils up and I'm just one person. I'm just,
Yeah.
I film myself, I edit myself, I do everything that you see from my channel apart from the art is myself. Like my sister did all my artwork for me,
That's awesome.
but other than that everything else is myself. So,
You're a one person army right there. You
yeah.
know, speaking of that, how do you combat the burnout? Because it is a real thing. People don't get it. I think there's a lot of people that throw stuff our way like relentlessly, and I love them for
Mhm.
that. You know,
Mhm.
I get that. Um, but the burnout is 100% a real thing because, like, I feel like just watching your videos and just knowing how much emotion is devoted into, like, you're all in every time you
Mhm.
hit play and you react. That's You're all in. How do you combat? What do you do on the outside of this space?
So I have found the way that it works for me is if I do film at least 3 or 4 at the same time,
Hmm.
and then I can get those edited and sent off wherever they need to be sent off for whitelisting, they call it.
Hmm.
Um, and then I can get those scheduled, and then if I've got a few that are scheduled ahead, then I can if I wake up one day and I don't feel like filming, I just won't. Because
Yeah.
I know I've got content and I know I can edit something and get it out there. So that's how I kind of work it.
Hmm.
Um, this I think in the past 4 years of doing the channel, when I first started out, I knew what I was like, so I didn't put something out every single day. I started very slow. I only did
Hmm.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday because I knew like I'm one of those people who starts something and then I never finish it
Yeah.
and I hit a brick wall and then I'm just like I'm not going to continue. And I didn't want that to happen with the channel because I love music and I wouldn't ever want it to become something that was burdensome to me.
Yeah.
So I started very slowly and then I got to the point where I was like, we should maybe amp this up a little bit. So yeah, for me, I'll sit down and I'll film maybe 3 or 4, not too many, because
Hmm.
obviously you don't want too much because there's stuff coming out every single day, and
Yes.
it's hard to keep up, and it's hard to stay on track of that as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's basically how I do it. I think I've taken 2 breaks. One was for our long overdue honeymoon last year that we took in May. No, in April, we went to Rome, and I
Oh,
wanted to
very
be
nice.
100% focused on us in that moment.
Yep.
So I didn't usually before that I would pre-film content that I would have coming out every single day while I was away, but I just didn't wanna be focused on that and then
Yes.
focused on posting that on social media and promoting it and things like that. So I took the 10-day break. Well, it was 2 weeks I took just to refresh, enjoy, my husband and I finally taking our honeymoon 10
That's
years later.
awesome. That's awesome.
Um,
Yeah.
and then the other break I took was obviously for when I went back home just recently, because obviously my heart just wasn't in it for filming, and I didn't want that to come across in,
Yeah.
like you say, because I do put everything into the music, and I feel everything, and um you can feel it in. So I filmed a couple as my dad was telling us she wasn't doing very well and that it was probably close. And it's one of my pentatonics ones that's out there.
Mhm.
And I cried. I just let those
Yeah.
emotions run free, and you can tell, like, you look and you can tell that there's something wrong, and I just don't want that for the bands either, because it's not fair on them when you're not
Yeah.
100% in it. So, I took that break. I took a month off, and oh my gosh, getting back after a month was hard.
Yeah.
Not just getting into filming, but trying to catch up on everything that was released, and yeah.
I just recently took a week off, and
Mhm.
I like, in a perfect world that I wish I lived in, but in a perfect world, I would love to have the content pre-recorded. That's how I, usually do it, and then schedule it out.
Mhm.
But what happens is when I'm posed to schedule it out, I'm still hovering around my devices.
Yeah. Yeah. Me
That's
too.
just it's just like a tick, and
Yep.
so I took a week off for my son's birthday. My father came up from Florida,
Mhm.
and I was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna be with the family, kind of recharge, and it's been like a two. Honestly, been like two, more than what I wanted to take off. But
Yeah.
yeah, getting back is it's just weird. It's like you feel like rusty, and you feel like you
Mhm.
stepped away for eons. You come back, and like so many new things are popping off. Like, when did that happen? When did that
Yep.
happen? Like, man, I was gone for like 10 seconds. it's
Yeah.
it's
It's
crazy how
Well,
things
and then you
move.
also have to get that motivation back for yourself as well, and
Yes.
sometimes, like, I knew I was gonna be away for a month, a long time, and it got to the end, I'm like, "Okay, I'm like, I'm ready to come back, but
Hmm.
I just need to get myself in that right mindset now to go
Yep.
ahead and do it," because not only are you, like, people don't realize, they think it's easy, they think you sit down in front of your computer and you watch a video and you make comments on it, but it's not, it's everything that comes after that. It's
After.
getting the video out there, it's the comments that come with that, it's people, of course, there's gatekeepers out there, there's people leaving stupid, nasty comments
Yep.
where you have to form a thick skin, and I am a very sensitive person, so it took me a long time not to take those to heart. There's obviously something happening in these people's lives that they're not happy about, that they then have to come on and try and take somebody else's light, and that's what I have to remember. So
Yeah, it's not your fault
it's
they're miserable.
right. Yeah. So I have to remind myself of that, and because I've always been a very sensitive person ever since I was little. Like, when I got in trouble, like, I'm one of those people that just cries, you know, or I get
Oh, no.
angry and just all of those emotions come out, and it's hard, and it's live stream, because I'm also very introverted.
Hmm.
People wouldn't think that with me on the channel, but before every Zoom meeting, my heartbeat is like pounding out of my chest,
Oh,
and
no.
Yeah, because I hate public speaking, and that's kinda what interviews are in a way, because you're
Yeah,
talking to somebody you don't know and you've never spoke to them before for the most part. Whereas with this, we've had that interaction on Instagram and it's a little different.
yeah.
So, my
And we have a
interpersonal
place to see each other's faces every day.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit different.
And, you kinda get a feel for what people's personalities are like
Yeah.
with reactions, whereas in a band, you don't really know what they're
No.
necessarily going to be like until you get to speak to them or you meet them in person. So, thankfully, my first ever one that's gonna be in person, I have met them before, like a
Okay.
couple of them, so I kind of know of them, um, but yeah, it's still I'm like I told my husband the other day because I got these Rode mics that you can physically, like, hold
Mhm.
properly, and I'm like, "How am I gonna stop my hand from, like, shaking with the anxiety and the
Oh,
nerves?" And he's like,
no.
"You'll be once you get into it, you'll be fine," which I will, but
Yeah. Yeah,
it's still
you
that
gotta think past the mic. Like, don't worry
yeah.
about the mic, because if you look at the mic, it's just gonna keep shaking.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, pretty
as
much, and so, yeah, I am very introverted, and I do live stream, like, I try and do it twice a week. I do Monday and Fridays, and
mhm,
after that, even though it's only a couple of hours, after that couple of hours, my social battery is just so drained
trained.
that I'm just like, I need, like I try and prep dinner beforehand so I don't have to do it after, because otherwise I just won't do it.
Yeah,
Because 'cause I'm just so
yeah,
mentally, emotionally drained that I need some time just to reset and refresh myself, so,
yeah. No,
yeah.
it's pretty, I hope you didn't get that nervous coming on it today.
No, no.
I hope you weren't. I really hope you weren't, because this is it's we are the yeah, I just pulled up the questions like today. I was like, you know what? I'll ask her some good questions, and we haven't even touched one of them yet. Um, but yeah, no. Have you ever had an interview that, or have you ever been talking to someone which just like completely shocked you? Like we're like, oh, that's different. I wasn't expecting them to be like that. Like where it's like a day and night like persona
Um,
change.
Not really.
No, okay,
Not yet anyway. Um,
okay.
'Cause when I did there's been a couple where they've been a bit more introverted
Hmm.
than they appear, but other than that, like, nothing's, like, really been like, "Whoa," and it's hard for me when they are also introverted because
Yes.
for me as the interviewer, I'm here to ask the questions, and then you're the person being interviewed is obviously there to expand and talk about it, and when
Yeah.
they're just straightforward to the point,
Like
and
yes,
it's like
no. You're like,
yeah,
I,
and it's
give me
hard to get
something.
that conversation going, and I try myself, whereas, like, my husband has just a natural talent for talking to anybody, and, when we're together, he's the talker and I'm the listener, and I think that's what helps me with the interviews at times
Hmm.
is because I have that knack of listening and not interrupting and letting them talk about it, but when you're both like that, it's hard.
That's a very 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 hard conversation to have.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I've had one person on the channel like that where um on the outside it's just like big, larger than life. But like in this scenario, it's like I don't want to try to pull teeth. Like
Mhm.
like you agree, like you came onto the channel. Like what
Yeah.
is going on? Like help me out a little bit, you
Yeah.
know? But yeah, the yes and no's kill me. They just
Mhm.
it just eats away at not just patience, but I'm like, we're tanking it. We gotta do something. But but okay, so do you okay, this is more of a US centered question. Have you or do you listen to country music?
No.
Okay. Okay,
And
I
that's
had to
not just
ask.
and that's not because I dislike it, I don't really know much about it to form an opinion on it, it's not something I grew up with,
Yeah.
obviously, and my husband's, like, a rock metalhead too, like, we have somewhat similar mine are a bit more heavier than his, he's
Mhm.
slowly transitioning over to liking heavier stuff, but
Yeah.
it's not something we listen to. It's not, if somebody requests it in a live stream, then of course I'll check it out. I don't think I think the only thing that I wouldn't like is the more like bluegrass type country,
Gotcha. Like that Appalachian banjo
Yeah.
heavy up there in the moonshine. Like I definitely understand that because yeah, because I just know that country is very, very here. Like it
Mhm.
doesn't really exist outside of the US.
No.
And it's a very foreign concept, like a very foreign genre for most.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, okay. I had to ask that because I was like, all right, country. I have to ask because I've wanted to do some. It's been interesting. I've wanted to do some country on the channel. I grew up listening to, honestly, my first CDs that I ever bought were Bob Marley's greatest hits
Mhm.
and the Temptations' greatest hits.
Mhm.
So that's where I started, and I've grown. So I've always been that easy Motown and reggae vibes.
Mhm.
That's where I and so where I'm at now with the channel is so far removed from that genre.
Yeah.
So like day and
You
night.
should you should slip in a couple here and there just to,
Yeah. Yeah.
zhuzh it up a little bit.
I've tried and oh my god, have they fallen completely flat? I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, so no one wants this. I get it. I get it. The
Yeah.
the views speak loud on the
Yeah.
channel. Um and especially when there's one that you think you're like, oh man, this is going to be a great song. This is going to be awesome to have on the channel. You put it on there, and it's just like, was was YouTube down for a day? What happened?
Mhm.
It's like, oh, okay, got it. We won't do that again. Um, but how, as far as like the different rabbit holes that you've gone down, what has been your most shocking? Has there been something that's like, I'll give this a try, and you're like, "Oh my goodness, I've just stumbled onto one of my favorite bands."
Huh. That's a hard one because there's so many
Yeah.
bands out there that I do check out, and I am very up and coming band
Mhm.
friendly.
Yes.
Um, so a lot of those honestly where they are just starting out, Rev Noir comes to mind as a big
Okay.
one. Like they're just starting out, they just released their first EP, they're from France. And the first song I ever checked out was on a live stream. I did not film it. It was just because my live streams are
Yeah.
more so just come hang out, listen to music together, and
Yeah.
uh, and have a good time. So somebody requested it, and I was like, "Well, why didn't I record this? This was amazing." And then every single song that they have brought out since then has just been absolutely incredible. And I think they're under 2,000 subscribers on their channel.
Wow, but, I feel like that's a lot of those artists that, like, they consistently put out good music. Eventually, they will hit, and
Mhm.
eventually it happens. Like,
I
they're
think they're getting to that point now because their first show, they're playing in Paris and it just
Mhm.
sold out. So
Oh,
I'm very
wow.
yeah, I'm so happy for them. And
That's
uh the,
awesome.
the guitarist and I have a nice friendship. So when he comes in streams sometimes and requests stuff,
Oh,
and yeah,
that's cool.
and then they sent me a t-shirt just randomly, like, we'd love to send you some merch. So I was like, oh,
That's super
that's
cool.
really nice of you. And just bands like that that are smaller and that don't necessarily have the big push behind them, that
Yeah.
even if I only get 10 views on the video, I don't care. That's 10 people that may have found a new band that they probably would never have found before.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for
So
sure. For sure. Mine, I would say if I had to pick one that I didn't know existed until uh what last year was Electric Callboy.
yes.
That threw me so hard. That threw me for such a massive loop. I'm
Yeah,
like, there's so many questions. I'm like, this is addictively disturbing. Like, I
yeah.
need all of it, like all the time.
It's funny
So
you say that because my nephew, his absolute favorite song right now is Spaceman. So when
yes.
we went home, like, my brother was playing it in his car, and my nephew was sat in the back in his, car seat, and he was like, "Spaceman," like, just
Yeah.
head he's 4, and he loves this
Nice.
song. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I
unfortunately,
totally get it.
unfortunately, my son loves We Got the Moves.
Mhm.
That's just he'll sing that in his room alone playing with his
Yeah.
toys. I'm like, yes. He's like, yes. Just trying to raise someone I can drink with in the future. you know,
Yep.
like that'll be good. But no, so where do a lot of metal bands uh do their tours come through like near where you're at?
Um,
Or do you have to usually travel a
sometimes.
lot?
S It's usually maybe about an hour or so from us,
Okay.
or it's, Atlanta, Georgia, which is about 5
Yeah.
hours from where we
Yeah.
are. So depending on the band, we will travel. It's like the start of May, we are gonna be in Atlanta over a weekend because it just so happened to work out. So I think it's the 10th we will be going
Okay.
to see Conquer Divide, which is about an hour and a half from us. And then the 11th and 12th, we'll be going to Atlanta because my husband is a huge Starset fan.
Okay.
So we're going to go see them. And then literally the next day, Imminence and Of Virtue are playing.
All right.
So it just so happened to work out that they were one after the other. And we were like, well, we'll just take the weekend and have the weekend in Georgia and then drive back Monday.
Oh wow. Okay.
But then I got invited to the Architects tour with While She Sleeps, and that's happening on the 14th, but unfortunately I can't go because we just can't. We've got pets, and
Yeah.
my husband's gotta get back to work, and, we just can't extend another couple of days to go to that, which sucks, but,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
oh, that's
it's life.
oh man, yeah. It is. There I mean, in a perfect world, I wish you could just be like, yes, all the bands, all the shows, all the gigs,
Yeah,
I'm there. I'm there.
yeah,
Um for us, we are on I didn't know this. We are on we have a lot of metal bands tour through DC, like
uh-huh,
DC or Baltimore.
yeah,
So I didn't know that it was happening like that. A lot of the bands that I'm reacting to on the channel have come through DC and or Baltimore and are set to come back through again. So I'm like,
mhm,
that's nuts. I can check them out a lot, which I'm very fortunate. Because my buddy, uh, he lives out there, and it's a like his closest spot where he would have to see him is probably Georgia, probably
mhm,
Atlanta. That's
yeah,
his closest. He's about the same distance away from Georgia. And but it's interesting because I growing up, I didn't know where metal bands played. It was always for me, it was always like an obscure location. Growing up, I'm like, metal bands, where's a metal venue? It's like, oh man, it's like right up the freaking road for me. I'm like, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
see, Baltimore would be another choice for us as well. It's probably about the same to Atlanta. Um, so it depends. It's either Georgia, um, Virginia, like
Hmm.
Norfolk area,
Yeah.
or Baltimore. And
Yeah.
sometimes they'll come like mostly from my state, they'll go to Charlotte, which is about a 3 hour drive.
Yes.
So that's not too bad. But then you still have to spend the night because you don't want to be driving another 3 hours home
No.
after a show, especially at well, my age, like my back at
Yeah.
the end of a show. I'm like, oh
It's like I can't do this. I can't
no,
rebound as quickly anymore.
no. And then
Yeah.
growing up in England, I was very lucky living close to Manchester. A lot of bands, that's one of the main cities that they
Hmm.
choose to go to. So I was very lucky with that. I actually saw My Chemical Romance on their first ever tour, which was fun.
That's
Like,
awesome.
in their that heyday of
Yeah.
when I'm Not Okay came out. So, yeah.
That's my buddy is going to Manchester to see uh Liam Gallagher
Mhm.
in June, I believe. So he's going over there. We're sending him over there as a channel. Not this channel, but the other one. And
Yeah.
it's going to be very interesting. It's going to he's we're sending him over there as like get a perspective of someone from the US to go over there, finally
Mhm.
like walking what we talk kind of thing. But we'll see if he comes back because I'm pretty sure he's going to love it over there and he'll just stay over there. So,
Yeah.
um, but as far as where you're going to be leaning more on talking to bands is that going to be just enveloped within the channel too? You're going to have that and continue with reactions as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm go try and do, like, a healthy mixture of both
Yeah,
because obviously there's gonna be times when things albums aren't coming out and you won't be talking to anybody, so
yeah.
you still balance it out with the reactions, and then right now it's crazy with releases and people wanting interviews, and, like, I've got one tomorrow, and then I've got one the day after, and I've got
Wow,
one Tuesday.
my
So,
goodness,
yeah,
you're
it's
busy,
mhm.
super busy. What is are you how do I preface this? Out of all the new music that's coming out this year, is there something that you are just chomping at the bit to listen to? Like, what is I know that Nightwish has new stuff coming out this year,
Mhm.
right? And as of right now, I'm thinking for me that's taking the cake as something I'm so excited to listen to because of because the new dynamics of all the different people
Mhm.
that are, I guess, in this iteration of Nightwish, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Have
that's something I'm very excited for because I believe this is their third and last album in this trilogy of like um it's things with nature and Mother Earth and things like
mhm,
that that they're doing. So, and I know that they've also had the London Orchestra involved with it, like they did on Once, because Once is probably my favorite album
mhm.
so far just because it's so nostalgic. It's the album I started with. It's the most symphonic out of them all.
Yes.
Um, so I'm very curious to hear how they're going to incorporate that back. But then also now we have, uh, we've got Troy, we've got Floor, we've got Yuka, Kai. It's a completely different. The only two people that remain is Empu and
And
Tuomas.
yep.
So yeah, it's been fun to see the evolution and to see where they go, and also, like, with them bringing out new music, I know they're not touring with this album for obvious
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah. I heard that too.
So, I think Kai said in an interview recently that there's gonna be maybe 3 or 4 years of them where there's not gonna be anything tour-wise from Nightwish, which then leads them to be able to do their other projects. Obviously, Kai can go back to Wintersun, Floor can continue doing what she's doing with her
Yep.
solo stuff, Tuomas has Ori, and then he has a black metal project that I always forget the name of.
I did
Troy,
not
of
know
course,
that.
with Ori and whatever else he lends himself to. I know Ampu's got his own. Obviously, Yuka's from Wintersun as well. So, I'm also interested to see if I can secure maybe an interview with Thomas or Floor
Oh,
with
that
the
would
new
be
album.
that would be awesome. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Eh,
Talk about talk about someone that has shaped the reaction face of YouTube.
well, that and just shaped my life
Just
in general.
yeah.
They've been there through thick and thin and through all of my ups and my downs, and it's just one of those bands like with Epica that I can just rely on and
Yeah.
know that it makes something that's comfortable for me and that I can go
It's
back
like
to,
you
and
feel like it's home.
yeah,
Like
yeah, very much so.
this is home now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that a lot. With especially with the bands that I discovered in the beginning
Yeah.
of the journey. You know, I try to start off with classic rock, like live
Mhm.
performances on the channels, like because I've I love classic rock. I grew up with classic rock, but I've never seen the bands. I've only heard the
Right.
bands.
Yeah.
I never got to see these people tour in their heyday, you
Mhm.
know? So I was like, let's just bring the live component to the channel. And then it ended up one of our good friends of the channel just said, "Hey, check out Nightwish," and yeah, it never looked back. It shaped the whole face of the channel. I was like, "Oh my god." And
Yeah, I think
I jumped in with Floor, and I'm like they're like, "Oh,
yeah.
no, 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 no. You gotta go way back." I was like, "What?" And so it's been
Yeah.
a very insane journey with all these bands that have been around for a shockingly long time. Like
Mhm.
some of these bands, they're like, "Oh, I rocked with that when I was in middle school." It's like, "What?"
Yeah. Yeah, it's like for
Crazy.
me, like 2004 it doesn't feel like that long ago, and yet it's gone so fast, and yeah, that's when I first discovered Nightwish and Epica, and then they just became huge parts of
Yeah.
my life, and I'm hoping, I don't know if we'll be able to, Epica's got their, I think it's the Synergy tour that they're doing with the like, they're having a full orchestra
Oh,
and
yeah.
choir. Um, we're hoping, because my aunt's getting married on the 7th of September, and then
Okay.
Epic is playing Amsterdam on the 20th. So if I'm already in Europe, it makes sense to go to Amsterdam.
That would be so
So
amazing.
we have tickets, like we bought the tickets already. Um, but it's just whether we can afford to do it and to get the timing right
Yeah.
with it, because going home, it's usually me traveling by myself just because of how
Mhm.
expensive it is. My husband's
Yeah.
been once, and that was before we got married. uh, like he's met maybe 10% of my family just because of how
Yeah.
expensive it is. Getting time off work, it's a lot different. Like you guys have to uh, accrue
Accumulate
holiday
a
hours.
bunch
You're
of
right.
holiday, yeah.
Holidays, whereas in England, you have a set so many weeks that you are given throughout the year, and
Which
then you can plan around what you wanna do.
is crazy.
So it's a lot different, and like, my family understand, they understand,
Yeah.
like, for me, going, especially going back around Christmas and New Year, it was very, very
Yeah.
expensive, so there was just no way that both of us could go, even though he really wanted to, pay his respects and see everybody, but we're gonna
It's
try and go both together in September, so we'll see how
yeah,
that works out.
hopefully that works. Yeah, people across the pond don't understand the work culture here is
Mhm.
vastly different.
Yeah.
Vastly different. And
Yeah.
that's why I would say a lot of Americans just don't they're not renowned for traveling.
Right. Well, and
It's
it's not only
impossible.
that, it's also your country, like, you have to think of England as the size of one of your states,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you've literally got 50 mini countries
If you think of it
in.
like that, yes,
Yeah,
100%. And
so I can understand why people don't travel outside of the States when you've got so much to explore within the States
yeah,
itself.
yeah.
So,
And it's super super costly
yeah,
and the time invested across the pond isn't enough to fully embrace any sort of culture at all because you're only
yeah,
given max maybe 2 weeks
yeah,
or 3 weeks and that's
mhm,
nothing. That's not even a taste. That's not even fully exploring a block of a city
yeah,
that has pubs older than this country.
yeah,
So it's like, yeah, we stay within the borders, which is sounds terrible, but there's a lot within the borders of this
mhm,
country. You could be in the car for ages, literally. Like,
right. That's one
I
thing I had to get used to, was travel, was, like, I have twin stepdaughters, and they
mhm,
used to live in Florida, so traveling the 8 hours to pick them up, which is nothing to an American, was
yeah.
like,
You're
an
like, wait,
hour
what?
is a long way for me.
Wait, how
But
long are
no.
you in the car? Like, yeah,
Right, and then we would literally go pick them up, turn around, and come back in the same day, and, I was
like,
I'm used to it now, but at the
God,
time, and now I go home and they're like, "Well, it's about an hour." I'm like, "Okay,
yeah. They're like,
let's
wait,
do
that's
it."
not far for you. Like, yeah, I'm
Right.
usually in the car. An hour is going to go to the grocery store. you
Yeah,
know
yeah. Yep.
Especially when you're more like rural living as
Mhm,
I'm out here. I would technically call myself country out here in Maryland, and
mhm.
it's about an hour for me
Yeah,
to get from my where I'm in to DC or to Baltimore, and that's normal. That's just like, yeah, that's not a problem.
yeah. It's probably about, the city I'm in is probably about, takes about 30 minutes to get from one end to the other, so, it's pretty big, and then, I'm not gonna name the city, but,
No,
people
no, I
probably
would definitely say no, don't do
people
that.
will probably know when I say we're next to the largest military base.
Yep,
So, there's that, like, it's 2 cities pretty much next to each other, and then you've got that melting pot of different people and
yep.
cultures, and so, yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
was definitely a culture shock in a way because I had never seen anybody in uniform
oh,
until I came to the States.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, they're everywhere. They're
Mhm.
everywhere, and that's just the military uniform, not
Yep,
the hunting
right,
uniform. That's
right.
in every Walmart. You're like, "How many people are here?" I don't know, they're all wearing camo. It's impossible
Yep.
to tell. So, yeah, no, I feel that. That was, a big shock. Did you just come right to where you were, across the
Mhm.
pond? Or
Yeah.
have you been to many other states since you've been here?
Um, I I haven't been to a lot. I've been to Florida, obviously, because the twins
Yeah.
used to live down there. One of them now lives in Chicago, so I've been up there. Um, I've
Wow,
been to
Florida
South.
to Chicago. What a
Yeah,
difference.
she wanted to get out. She wanted
Yeah.
to. She likes the big city life,
Yeah.
so she wanted to go. She wants to do journalism,
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
she her big dream is to get to the Big Apple and do that there. So
Oh, man.
Chicago's that middle step between.
That's like the small
So,
apple, the
yeah.
windy apple. Yeah, pretty
Yeah, so
much.
I've mostly been, like, in, like, southern states. We have family in Tennessee,
Oh, very
and
nice.
Tennessee, Georgia border, and then I've been to DC. My husband had training up there for work, so we went up there for, I think it was a week. So DC, I've been to Baltimore. It's mostly been, like, this, like, southern end of the
Yeah,
states, I
like a
haven't
little tiny down south tour, like, if you
yeah,
could
and
map it out.
last year I flew to Texas and met up with Old School Nerd, who is another
Yep.
reactor in real life, because we
Yes.
did. I've been a fan of Camelot for pretty much the same amount of time as I've been a fan of Nightwish, and I've never seen
Mhm.
them live, and, they weren't coming anywhere close to North Carolina, so, um, Old School Nerd was, "Hey, why don't you fly out here and we can go together?" So that's what we did.
That's
So
that's
that
that's super cool.
yeah, that was the first time I went to Texas, so that was fun.
How'd you think of what'd you think about Texas?
I mean,
Don't hold any punches. I have I love Texas. I love Texans. It's a massive place.
see, that's the thing. We only ever stayed in Houston, so I
Oh, that
can't really
well,
say anything
that's
about
like
it other
Houston,
than
Texas. It's like
yeah,
that's its own people. They have
yeah,
Dallas Texans, and then you
right.
have like it's crazy. Oh,
It's such a huge state, and it's got so much culture in it, and, we only saw, like, 1% of it, so, like, my husband won't shut up about the steak he got, though, like, he keeps drooling
yeah.
over that damn steak.
Well,
But
that's
if you're gonna get
something.
steak,
Yeah.
it's gotta be Texas,
It's
right?
gotta be
So,
Texas. If you're gonna
yeah.
get any kind of oh, no, you guys listen, you guys do, barbecue very well,
Mhm.
okay? That's a very, hot point. When you get down, I would say, down south past Virginia, barbecue is a very fighting thing. Like, who
Yeah.
has the best? But I would say Texas steak would have to be, a go-to for anyone that wants to come to this country. Like, definitely get a steak in Texas.
Yeah, see, I'm not even much of a red meat eater myself,
Mhm.
and I tried it and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I would order that myself."
Yeah, yeah, and the portion size is nuts. The portion
Mhm.
size, I feel like
That's an
anywhere.
Yeah, that's another thing I had to get used to over here is the portion sizes compared to back home. It's
Yeah.
like twice as much, and, you order your entree, and then it's, like, got 2 sides, and I'm like, "I can't eat all of that," and then a salad or a soup or bread
Like, it
and
keeps
it's like
coming, it keeps coming
but
out.
I guess leftover culture is
Yeah.
a lot bigger over here than it is back home, so
Yeah, no, that's
I
very
can
true,
understand. Yeah,
very true. Usually, that serving size they give you is
like 2 or 3
yeah,
meals.
yeah, yeah, on a good day, you could probably save a little bit, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely 100% takeaway, or doggy bags as we call them,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Is a
Yeah.
huge thing, you know.
Yeah. So my husband and I sometimes will usually share a dish because I won't eat it all, he won't eat it all, and
Yeah.
I'm not a leftover person because it's not something I grew up with. So it'll just like I'll take it home with the thought of reheating it and trying it, but then I'm just like I forget
Yeah.
about it and it
Yeah.
just sits in the fridge and then it just gets thrown away and a waste of money. So
I got you on that. My wife is the same way. Like, we bring it home and I'm like, "You're not gonna eat that." Like, let's
yeah,
just be
that's
honest.
that's what my
Like
husband says too. He's like, "Why are you even taking
like,
it? Because
we're
it's
not
just gonna sit there."
yeah.
I'm like,
As
"Well,
soon
you
as we
can
bring
have
it home, it goes
it."
right in the bin. You're like,
Yeah.
just it's like, it's a waste. Like, yeah, I know, but we signed that agreement going to this place, you
Yep.
know? So, yeah, it's pretty interesting over here. You know, I haven't spent any time in the UK per se, but I want to go. But now with my family, that's a much harder, like, just
Mhm.
the same reason like your husband hasn't gone over there. It's hard to get more
It
than
is.
one person to go traveling.
Yeah. Yep.
And yeah, and I don't know. I don't know when that's going to happen. It'll happen eventually. You know,
Yeah.
I've been doing YouTube, my God, like three and a half years. It's
Mhm.
crazy. Not on this channel. We just started 7 months ago doing music reactions.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, no. Listen, I really appreciate your time, Tori, and just having a chin wag with us, right?
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
I appreciate you asking me. It's been really fun.
Of course. Of course. And any time you want to come on the channel, you have the keys to the door. No worries. You just have to ask and we'll make it happen, you know. Um is there anything you want to tell our people on the channel before we head out?
So yeah, I have my own YouTube channel, which is Tauri Reacts. We usually check out uh, rock metal mostly, but there are other genres thrown in there. And then I do live stream twice a week, Mondays and Fridays, usually starting at 1 p.m. EST. It's the same username, Tauri Reacts. And I usually take requests like 15 minutes before the stream starts so that we can get everybody in and I can get the songs pulled up and then I'm not just sat around wasting time while you're sat waiting for your
Yeah.
song to be played. So you can find me on social media either at Toriax or I stupidly made my Instagram It's a Me Tori after like the Mario.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad you said that. I was like, oh, it's a me. Like, I cannot not say it like that, or not think of it like that. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, and now it's just too far into it where there's no point changing it.
Yeah.
People tag me as that now, so it's one of those things that's stuck, and I don't mind it. It always brings up that funny conversation. You can tell I'm a gamer and whatever. I think most of us metalheads and are nerds and gamers, and we like that sort of culture, so it's fine.
And I will put all links to your channels and your socials in the description under the video, which, it does exist, guys. There is a description of the video. You just have to click the more button and you'll find a lot of
Yep.
stuff in those things. I swear to God, that's not that hard. But yes, thank you so much for spending some of your time with us here on this channel. We really appreciate it. And I hope the people, leave your comments, guys. I would love to do this more often and bring the YouTube community kind of together.
Yeah.
We share the same platform. We see each other's faces every day, whether we want to or not. It's we see it.
Yep.
We know each other. We just haven't talked to each other.
Yeah.
So hopefully, little by little, we'll bring more and more people in. And this time, thank you so much. Thank you again, Tori, for honestly for just hanging out with us. And I
Thank
hope
you. Thank you too.
I didn't grill you too about too much stuff, right? I did.
No,
All
no.
right, good. All right. Anyway, guys, much love. Make sure you unplug, do something legendary, and make sure you go over to Tori's channel and hit that subscribe button like crazy. If you're not already subscribed. All right, guys. Bye. Thank you again. Bye.